afternoon, parents, friends, teachers, and fellow classmates. I want to begin by acknowledging my family, many of whom traveled many miles to support me in my graduation. It means a lot. This gratitude is similarly extended to all the families and friends here supporting the class of 2024. We couldn't have done this without you. And now, let me begin my speech, which I'm sure is the reason all of you are here today. There's nothing adults enjoy more than having a teenager tell them how the world works. At 17 years old, I'm giving a speech to a group of people who are much older and wiser than me. When writing the speech, I felt immense pressure to say the right thing but not come off as prideful, to speak with humility but represent myself honestly, all while trying not to overthink this moment. And so, because of this pressure, I just had ChatGPT write it. Shout out to Mrs. Cuddy. No, I decided the best use of this privilege is to talk to you about what I know best, academics. Believe it or not, I did actually put a lot of time into school over the past 4 years. The effort and work that I put into my education is something that I do not regret and will be forever grateful for. However, I believe that the things in our lives we as people hold as most important should be subject to critique. I say this because while I'm glad I poured myself into my schooling, reflection on the past 4 years has led me to conclude that my motives were often veiled in self-interest. Academics became a way for me to escape my own internal problems, to escape the insecurities I had, satisfy my need for validation, and please others. These are problems that really should not and cannot be solved through academics. They should be solved through online shopping. Yeah. These are problems that reach peak importance as a young adult, and in my attempt to solve these problems, I began emphasizing the importance of academics in my life to an extreme. What might have seemed like a noble pursuit to many was often a selfish way to spend my time. I frequently compared myself to others, neglected the people I love, and was a devoted learner in order to validate my fragile identity. As Mr. Freeborn put it, I was becoming a lifelong student rather than a lifelong learner. I didn't realize that the environment of academia in which I thrived created a false identity for myself. Does this harmful environment only exist in high school? Or does it reach beyond academics into environments we thrive in after high school and college? In our culture today, it seems like high school is important because it leads to college, and college is important because it leads to a job, and a job leads to money. I made this connection in my head, and with an overemphasis on academics, I began to equate myself with what I produced within school. My personal identity, who I saw myself to be, was tied so strongly to success within school that I couldn't view myself in any other light. Now, losing your identity to your grades is a common story. I'd say that many, if not all, students have or can relate to this problem. Maybe some of you parents remember how it felt to be validated by your grades. However, as I've said before, this story transcends high school. Believe it or not, it transcends college as well. It's a problem that follows many people into their adult lives. Grades can easily be replaced with salaries and job positions. What I'm trying to say is that there's a pattern of upholding damaging internal identities through how we work, whether it be in school or beyond. While pursuing work to satisfy personal problems is very much an internal issue, it's often promoted by our environment. Our society and culture is obsessed with producing, consuming, and reaching achievements. It is so incredibly easy for this toxic culture to leak into the education system. And it has. But thank God it hasn't at Pacifica. If this speech has seemed disheartening so far, don't worry, there's a happy ending. What really saved me from self-destruction, what anchored me, grounded me for the past 4 years, has been the teachers at Pacifica. I want to thank all of you so much. All of you could be using your gifts to chase the same validation and achievements that I did. But you chose to pour yourselves into the lives of your students. During senior dinner on Tuesday, Mr. Benedetto told me he believed I didn't devote myself to school for competitive reasons or in order to achieve, but for the pure love of learning. In that moment, it sunk in that the teachers here love students for who they really are. No matter how much I convince myself that I'm valuable purely because of my grades, my teachers have always been there to remind me of who I am in their eyes and God's eyes. Not only have my teachers returned me to my true identity, but have similarly returned me to my love of learning. I remember the day in AP Calculus when Mr. Benedetto taught us about Taylor and Maclaurin series. I know this probably won't make sense to the majority of you, but I cannot express with words what it felt like to understand how an infinite series can be used to estimate a function. It was like understanding the world on a whole new level. What about freshman year, when for a project in history, Mr. Comer wanted us to make a slideshow presentation about a historical event? I was considering doing a presentation on the Manhattan Project because I thought it would secure me a good grade. In reality, I wanted to make my presentation about this obscure battle in World War I between the Germans and Russians called the Attack of the Dead Men. When I talked to him about it, he said the Attack of the Dead Men was much more interesting, and I wholeheartedly agreed. His affirmation reminded me of how much I love to learn. I remember this year in Mr. Freeborn's class, we spent a whole class period going through some of the Euclid's proofs. Mr. Freeborn did not tell us the answer, nor did he tell us how to get to those answers. Rather, he simply let us yell out suggestions to reach an answer. Engaging in organic learning as a class based on nothing other than our minds was blissful. And I have countless stories like this for each and every teacher I've had at Pacifica, and I would love to recount all of them, but I have a limited amount of time. Okay, so we have an answer, right? Find good teachers. The thing is, these teachers can't follow us into college or into the jobs we find after college. Well, that is, of course, if I decide to become a teacher at Pacifica. In college, we might have professors who don't care about us, and beyond. We might work in toxically competitive environments where our bosses view us purely as a means for production. So we have to figure out another answer. But in reality, it's the same answer as before. Despite the title of educator, our teachers are just people who care deeply about others and guide us into believing in who we really are, who God made us to be. May we remember to find those extraordinary people who love us and see us as our true self. May we find those people who, when we lose our way in achievements, guide us back to who we really are. And may we find others to pour ourselves into, just as our teachers did for us. Thank you, and congratulations.